everybody? I'm back. This is your host with the most, your director, editor, all the above, your man, the guy that's gonna carry you through this whole thing, this whole experience, you know. Just got a few topics I want to talk about today. Oh, and first and foremost, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. You are tuned in to the Down Trap. This is episode 7. Yes, still here. I know it's been a little while since the last episode, and I know I probably said that last time, but still, we're here. We're here today. It's a new day. We're live. We're breathing. Hope each and every one of you are doing well and don't have many complaints at all. I know I just put a little track to talk over at the beginning. I think I want to do that for every podcast moving forward, just so it's not so dry. It's not much going on out there in the movie world, but I'm gonna talk to you guys about I guess some TV and whatever movies I have seen as of recent, whether just something old that I've seen or something new on some kind of streaming service, and I think that's about it. So once again, hope everyone's doing well. Just let me know. And for right now, I do want to get started off with Netflix first and foremost, the big dogs as far as the streaming wars go. And I would like to go ahead and get started with the show on Netflix, of course, that's called Last Chance U, which, if you don't know, is a show about junior college football teams and how they get their players to actually do better than what they're expecting to do and possibly either go into a D1 school or go play in the NFL. And the show overall is a really good show. It's really positive. You just have to think that these kids, well, these college students are they're not in the best situation financially, and football is their number one love. So what other way can they keep their love going for the sport? Well, they have to go to a junior college, and they have to make things work out for them. I mean, if they don't want to, then that's basically it. They're going to have to find something else to do because that's the end of the road for them. But for those that are able to learn from their JUCO, which is junior college, and progress and move forward with their lives and their love for football, then they have to make it do what it does, essentially. So it's a really good show. There are 3 schools that are touched on. The first school being East Mississippi. This most recent season is about Laney College, which is in Oakland, California. And it's not my favorite season or my favorite school of the 3 schools that they touched on, mainly because the show just kind of lost its way, in a sense. The show was about the player relationships with the coaches as well as the sport itself, and that was basically it. There was also the kind of like advisor to the entire team and her journey as she is able to like handle everything that she has going on at home and then come to school and have to deal with these students and these quote unquote privileged football players. And it's just not that in this most recent season. I get it. They didn't want everything to be the exact same as it was in previous seasons, but that was kind of a detriment to this most recent season, mainly because that's what made the seasons good. It's just seeing how these players interacted with each other as long as they can until they were able to actually graduate from their JUCO. I won't give any spoilers or anything because I do want everyone to check out the show at least. It may be your cup of tea, it may not be your cup of tea, but I will say that there is something in the show for everyone. So with this final season of the football portion of the show, there will be a basketball portion of the show coming in the future, which I'm pretty excited about because I like basketball, even though I do like football more. I just think there's going to be a lot different with that part of the show. I wonder if they're going to have more episodes, mainly because there are more games in a basketball season than there are a football season. So should be pretty interesting. Um, so far as the football portion of Last Chance U, I will score it an 8 out of 10. It would be a 9 out of 10 if this last season didn't do what it did with over explaining certain things towards the end of the season. Or, I don't know. It just could have been a lot better. But yeah, I won't spoil anything again. But that's what I think about Last Chance U. Another show that I just finished yesterday on Netflix was Umbrella Academy, and it's the second season that I just watched, which just came out on Friday, and I love that show. I first saw it in 2018. I saw the trailer for it, and I wasn't really the biggest fan of it because I thought it was going to be something like Doom Patrol, which is another show that came out around the same time that I enjoyed a lot more. And so I watched the first episode of Umbrella Academy, and I said maybe I'll come back to it, maybe not. I don't know. Um, so I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago, I just sat down and watched it, and I watched it all in about 2 or 3 days. It was pretty good. It's a really interesting watch. Um, for most people, once you get past the weirdness of the show and how they decide to touch on certain topics that are in the comic books, which you may or may not know about. Once you can get past certain things, or you find what you like about the show, then it's really fun to watch because it's another one of those shows that's kind of got something in there for everyone. And I know I may not stop ever comparing it to the Doom Patrol series that's now on HBO Max because they're both weird TV shows about people with superpowers, and I just find it odd that they came out around the same time. Umbrella Academy season 2 just came out. Doom Patrol season 2 is still going on right now on HBO Max. So it's just kind of hard to not compare the two. But I don't have a favorite between the two yet. Doom Patrol is still happening right now, and so far I'm still enjoying that season. I'll touch on that in a minute. But yeah, Umbrella Academy is a show about 6 siblings that were born at the exact same time on the exact same day, and they find out that they have superpowers. And it's a really cool concept, mainly because we really haven't seen anything like it. Like, we've seen groups of people that have powers, or a group of siblings that have powers, but not many TV adaptations about siblings that are totally different people, born on the exact same day. They're basically bought by someone to live in the exact same house, and he trains them, and at the same time he's raising them to be his little crime fighters. And then at the same time, you can't really be mad at him per se, but then again you can, because he kind of needs to raise them to be children and have them do children things, but instead he's waking them up early in the morning to go and train for each one of their superpowers. So there are 7 of them that he has. One of them dies, so as they're adults, there are 6. And what brings them together is actually the death of their father. And strange things start happening after that. So really interesting stuff. I do say check it out. The second season did do everything that the first season did, but better in a sense. The plot was kind of wearing itself out because we'd seen that already, but if you're a fan of the first season, you'll be a fan of the second season. So give it a watch if you don't mind some of the weird concepts that it has. Like I said, there are just certain differences between this and Doom Patrol, but essentially they're always going to seem like the same show to a lot of people. But overall, if I had to rate both seasons together, I'd rate them a 9 out of 10. Both seasons 9s out of 10s, just because they're really surprises. I think each season is 10 episodes, and it's a lot of fun. It's a really good watch. And while I was already speaking about Doom Patrol, I will go ahead and touch on that. I can't recommend it to everyone. I do say watch it if you plan on watching something weird and strange and something that seems like they're written by someone that's on some kind of drug. It's by DC. The comics, DC, Superman, Batman, all of the above on that end. But um, the only hero here that you'll maybe notice will be Cyborg, and it's a totally different Cyborg from the ones in the cartoons and the one from the Justice League movie. So there's that. But once you get past him being the only one that you'll remember, or if you even keep up with DC Comics, you'll learn about more of the other heroes that are in the show. Well, I can't really even call them heroes. They're just people with superpowers that are being that have been taken care of by a doctor whose name is Niles Calder. And um, just like the Umbrella Academy, this is a weird show. This show is weirder, I will say, just because it has, I think, more freedom to do whatever it wants to than the Umbrella Academy it does. Because the Umbrella Academy seems to be taking a lot from its original source material, but Doom Patrol is doing that also, but throwing a lot of new stuff in, which is making it a lot of fun to watch because you never know what's going to happen next. And you don't know how weird they're going to take things because they'll do something one episode and then do something totally different the next episode. And there aren't many cliches in the show, and it's just a lot of fun if you can't tell. But it takes a few episodes to actually hit its stride because it starts off with a little bit of exposition and setting certain characters up. But once that happens, it's basically gone. So there's that. I will give my full review later since the season is still ongoing. So when it finishes up, I'll give my score on Doom Patrol seasons 1 and 2. If I had to rate season 1, it'd probably be an 8 out of 10. Just because I feel like sometimes they went a little bit left, but this season, well, season 2 is doing a way better job of keeping things in a straighter line than the first season. Still on Netflix. If you haven't seen The Last Dance, which is the Chicago Bulls documentary, then I don't know what you're doing with your time. Even if you don't like basketball, even if you don't like Michael Jordan, even if you don't like whatever there is that's keeping you from watching this documentary, there's something in this documentary for you. Don't waste your time watching everything else besides watching this, because this is really a good watch, and I really recommend it to anyone that wants to know more about Michael Jordan as a person or a player, or wants to know more about the 90s and the Bulls. And yeah, so if I had to rate it, I give it a 9 out of 10. There's not much to spoil because a lot of it's just history. So do watch it. It's 10 episodes. Go ahead and knock it out. Another show on Netflix, kind of taking a little bit of a turn, but it's Unsolved Mysteries, which is just like the old shows, just more cases. Well, a few more cases now. It's not many episodes in this first part, but these episodes they hit. I'll just say that they hit a little bit differently than the older ones do, because I don't know. I don't really have an explanation why. I don't know. But I don't know if it's because I'm older now and I'm watching a lot more of these type of shows. But yeah, it's a lot going on, and it's not easy to watch. I will say that some of the stuff is pretty tough to watch. So do watch whenever you feel like it. Just don't turn it on randomly and expect to feel better afterwards, because you may feel like crap. So I'm not going to give you any kind of spoilers because that's just going to ruin the episodes. But I don't have a score on it yet, just because I think I need to watch it over again whenever I do that. And if you're a fan of the ID channel, you will love it. So there's that. Another show on Netflix is Schitt's Creek, which is SCHITT' Creek, CREEK. And it stars Eugene Levy and his son Dan Levy, as well as Catherine O'Hara. And it's basically about a family who loses, a rich family at that loses all of their money, and they have to go stay at a town that the dad bought the son as a joke. He jokingly bought him a town, and they have to go live in this town because they don't have anything else. So they have to go to this town and live in a hotel. Basically, all four of them. It's also their daughter. So dad, his wife, and son and daughter, and they just have to pack up whatever they have able to that they're able to pack up in their truck or their van or whatever and go to Schitt's Creek. And they meet the mayor, and it's really just a trip all the way through. There's always some kind of surprise, and the supporting characters are really great as well. Once you figure out who they are and what their motivations are, and some characters are kind of one note, but they get their chance to shine later on in later seasons. So if you see someone in the show you don't really care for, don't count them out because more than likely you'll like them by the end of the show. But if I had to rate that show, that would also be a 9 out of 10. It's a great show. I do want to go ahead and give Eugene Levy his flowers. That man has done so much in the film industry, and I think it's about time that he gets some kind of recognition for all that he's done over the years. So I'd be expecting some kind of lifetime achievement award for him in the future because of this show. And yeah, I was really just looking for a comedy series, and I kept seeing people people kept recommending it to me, and I just was just waiting for the right time. So I checked it out, and I want to say it's about 4 or 5 seasons on Netflix, and there's another season that I saw, but it hasn't come on Netflix yet. But it's a really great show, so do check that out whenever you get the chance. I did go back and watch The Witcher again, the series on Netflix based off of the video games and the books. And it's a pretty good show. I haven't talked about it before, really, but the plot isn't the greatest just because it seems that the stakes are so low, and whatever actions happen throughout the show, they don't have many repercussions, and you don't really know what characters' motivations are because they just kind of dump things on you and then instantly you'll forget about them. So there's Henry Cavill as well. All the ladies love Henry Cavill. I will say that Henry Cavill, he is great to anything that he's in right now, except for Justice League. But he does a good job of creating his own type of hype to a lot of these shows and these films as well. He was in the Mission Impossible movie, which I was kind of skeptical about seeing, but once I saw the fight scene with him, Tom Cruise, and an Asian guy in the bathroom, I said, yeah, I'm all in. Give me more of that energy. And I love that movie. It's my favorite Mission Impossible movie. And I'll probably talk about it on the podcast soon as well, because that was really a sleeper hit for me. But back to Witcher. I think the only thing that they can do to improve the show in the next season that they come out with, which is going to be season 2, they need to have more monsters, more monster fights, more human fights, more of that good old sword play, and I guess less exposition dumps. They need to do a better job with introducing characters, making their motivations known right then and there, and then let's just keep it pushing. Let's go to the next thing. Don't keep showing us glimpses of what these people want, and then when it's time for them to do something, it just kind of seems rushed because you just didn't spend enough time in one place to talk about a certain person or certain thing or certain plot points. So they're my thoughts on The Witcher. If I had to rate it, it would be an 8 out of 10. I was going to give it a 7, but I mean, that show has really great production and CG, so it kind of just gives it an extra bump up to an 8. As far as Hulu goes, I haven't seen many Hulu or FX originals as of late. I think the last one I saw was Dave, which is the show about Lil Dicky, which was good. It won't be everyone's cup of tea. You just have to have an open mind when you're watching it, though, because you may not understand what the show is. It's basically satire and a play on how the music industry is today and what it takes to make it in the music industry. But it was a good show. I'm not going to spoil anything but I give Dave's first season an 8 out of 10. It was surprisingly good. And the show, or the movie actually, called Palm Springs, which has recently made it to Hulu, which stars Andy Samberg from The Lonely Island and Saturday Night Live fame. And a lot of people may like his comedy style, a lot of people may not, but at the end of the day, a lot of stuff that we find funny today, we if we go back and watch a lot of his old stuff, that we find that funny now. And I think that's really hilarious because I've always thought as The Lonely Island as the guys that were funny before their time. For example, when Hot Rod came out, people thought that Hot Rod was childish. I loved it, but people thought it was childish, and there wasn't really a place to have that movie, be funny and everything else. But it was on Netflix recently, and I seen that it was like up there as far as views went, and people loved it. That's just because their comedy style just kind of became popular as of late. So I think that was pretty hilarious. But Palm Springs stars him and I won't really say a slew of other famous people because he's mainly the main character in this movie, and it's about this guy who's basically stuck in a time loop. So it's almost Groundhog's Day, but different in a sense that I don't know how to explain it without spoiling anything, but he's stuck in a time loop. He wants to figure out how to get out. He meets someone, and then she gets stuck in the time loop as well. But there's also another guy who is stuck, and he's played by a pretty famous actor, which was a nice surprise. I'm not going to spoil that, but he's stuck in the loop as well, and you find out why. And yeah, so Palm Springs on Hulu, great watch. If I had to rate Palm Springs, I would give Palm Springs an 8 out of 10. Not really a 9, but I think that a 7 would be too low because it was a good movie. It was a really good movie, but I don't want to overhype it or anything. So 8 out of 10 for me for Palm Springs. And yeah, I think the next show I'm going to watch on Hulu is going to be Rami, which is the show about Rami Youssef and his life, essentially, but it's him playing himself. So some stuff is really taken from his life, but some stuff may be exaggerated to make it for TV. I know that the new season has Mahershala Ali in it, so definitely going to be checking that out soon. And also, I do want to note that Watchmen, which is a show I've mentioned on this podcast numerous times, has 26 Emmy nominations. So if you haven't watched the Watchmen television show on HBO, then now's the best time to watch it before everyone says they're a fan. You can't say that I didn't tell you so because I think I came on here after the first episode or the first 2 episodes praising it. And yeah, 26 noms kind of speaks for itself. So not trying to brag or anything, but also Succession, which is a show I've talked about on here. But I do want to talk about this show in depth in the future. I do want to give it an overall score as well. And yeah, so that show and Ozark, which is another show. I think I'm going to have a guest when I talk about Ozark. And I may have to find a guest whenever I talk about what I know who I'm going to talk to about Watchmen with. But look out for a special guest in future episodes of this podcast. But yeah, Succession and Ozark had 18 nominations each. So I feel like no matter how these Emmys go, some of my favorite shows of the past year will not lose. So very excited to see the Emmys and see the winners. And yeah, everything else is just kind of falling into place as far as that goes. TV is really in a great spot right now, mainly because of streaming, but HBO in itself is a totally different monster. So yeah, pretty excited about those Emmy noms. I just think that that's completely awesome. I'm really excited for the TV show called The Boys, which is on Prime Video. And if you have Prime Video and you haven't watched The Boys, watch it. It's basically what if superheroes were douchebags, and how basically how the world has to live knowing that there are superheroes that are out there. And the main superheroes, their names are the Seven. Well, they're called the Seven, and they're a play on the Justice League and the Avengers. So you have your Superman type character, your Batman type character, your Flash type character, but they're all terrible people. And I think that's such a hilarious concept because it's like, okay, in TV shows, these superheroes do things, but nobody cares about the consequences. Like a superhero flies through a building, and in the TV show, nobody would care. But in The Boys, this stuff has consequences, and you see these people do PR stuff afterwards, saying, "Hey, sorry about this," and they have to actually speak on their actions, which are terrible actions, and I think that's really great. And yeah, things happen in the show, of course, and they're pretty weird things if you're not ready for them. But if you open your mind when you're watching this show, it's really a great time. I'd give the first season a 9 out of 10. It's really that good, and I think that it's really one of the underrated shows that people talk about nowadays. There is going to be a season 2, which will be out on September 4th. Yeah, September 4th. So I'm pretty excited for that. And since it's going to be out on Prime Video, I think that all of it's going to be available that day. So I'll probably binge it while I'm streaming it. So I'm pretty excited. With season 1, during my rewatch recently, I loved basically all the characters and how they interact with one another. And something may happen to one character, and that character does not forget about it. And later, if that character brings it up, it's kind of like that, oh yeah, moment in your brain that kind of goes off. So that's great. It's really clear cut who you're supposed to root for, depending on who you are. If you like all the super duper fancy stuff, you may want to root for the 7. But throughout the episodes, you'll more than likely sway your opinion on them, and it leaves off on a cliffhanger ending, which makes this wait for season 2 much, 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 much better than it would be if they were to actually have an ending for the first season. So, also, Seth Rogen is like one of the showrunners, I believe. I don't know his exact role. I don't have my iPad with me right now to fact check myself. But Seth Rogen is a part of this show, and some of his comedy you can see, but a lot of the corny stuff that he does is not really available, which is great because Seth Rogen can get really corny at times. So, I'm looking forward to season 2 because from the trailers I've seen and the clips and everything, and I watched their like meet that they had with Comic-Con at home, and they just talked about the season and what to look forward to, and it looks like they're going to be doubling down on everything that made the first season great. So I'm really excited about The Boys season 2. So be looking forward to my thoughts on that in the next coming months. And before I get off of here, I know this may be kind of short. There's just not much going on as far as movies go. I think in the future, I'm going to start talking about some video games more and some music and just having open interviews with people. And yeah, I think it's going to be a fun ride. I just want to leave this thing open. I don't want to limit myself to one particular topic, but I don't want to prolong things at all, really. So if you have any suggestions, do not be afraid to let me know. If you have any feedback, don't be afraid to let me know. My email is thedomtrap@gmail.com, and that's TheDomTrap@gmail.com. So don't be afraid to go there and let me know some kind of suggestion or any kind of feedback that you have. But I do want to discuss theaters and how they're going to start opening back up and being part of daily things again. And I'm a little bit worried, mainly because I don't know. I see bowling alleys opening up, and I see how they're doing bowling alleys and things of that sort. But I think movies are different because there are going to be films that are going to come out, which a lot of people are going to want to see at the same time. So I'm really curious how they're going to handle the load, and if movies are going to be in theaters for a longer period of time than they would be pre all this stuff with this going. I don't want to name it or anything, but all this stuff that's going on. So I'm really curious how seating is going to be. First and foremost, I know that they're going to have to space people out. I don't know if they're going to do the 6 feet thing or if they're going to have someone sitting 2 rows or certain columns away from one another, which they'll more than likely do. I did get an email from Regal saying that they're going to have hand sanitizer stations everywhere, and guests and employees all have to wear masks, which is great. So there's that. You're going to be able to purchase your tickets and purchase your concessions through their app, which is cool. But yeah, a lot of this stuff is really I'm really worried about it. It's not the best thing in the world, and that's Regal. That's a large theater, so I'm wondering how smaller theaters are going to handle the same thing if they're still open. Do what you can to save your smaller theaters. I did get an email from Premier Cinemas here in Easley, South Carolina, saying that they needed people to email the higher ups to basically say, "Hey, don't close the theater after all this stuff is done." So do what you can to save your local theaters. Um, just be safe. I can't stress that enough. Be safe out there. Still wash your hands. Still wear your mask. Don't freak out whenever someone tells you to wear your mask. It's for your safety as well as the safety of others. So don't be selfish. Um, I don't know how I feel about movies being $20 and $30. I hate it. Um, on demand has always been a thing, but paying $20 to see a movie that's 90 to 100 minutes tops is insane to me, considering how many movies you can see with $20 in theaters. So I hope that this isn't really the new trend. There was a report that came out today actually that Mulan was going to be 29.99 on Disney Plus, or if it's not showing in your theaters, you can see it there. Which I don't know if it'd be the same. I doubt it'd be the same price at a theater. I'm not paying $30 to see Mulan in a theater, but yeah. So even if you do have Disney Plus, you would still have to pay the additional $29.99 to watch Mulan. Now, I'm not the most hyped person for Mulan, so I may be the wrong person to tell you. I would see it anyway, but I don't know if I'll pay $30 to see Mulan, to be honest with you. Just from the way that this movie was handled, the marketing, it doesn't look like a $30 movie, and it barely looked like a theater movie. So I'm just surprised that it's not coming straight to Disney Plus like everything else should do. New Mutants as well. So yeah, so I want someone to tell me if they would actually pay $29.99 to see one movie on a streaming service that they're already paying $6.99 for. I just want to know who they're trying to market this movie to. Yeah, it's pretty weird, and it seems like a lot of anti-consumer moves are being made within the industry from a lot of these movie studios, such as Disney, and a lot of these video game studios, such as Sony, and it's just stuff that's like it's tearing things apart. Really, it's not about unity, which I thought that everything was moving towards, but it looks like they're trying to break everything up for the sake of them having money and the setbacks that they probably had throughout this whole situation. So I'm just wondering, what good is this going to do for future films? Like, is Fast and Furious 9, whenever it comes out, are the prices going to rise? Is that movie going to be $49.99 to see at home on HBO Max that you're already paying $15 a month for? Like, what's going to happen with a lot of these movies? And are these movies even going to be good? Because they haven't been able to do a lot with what's going on because of production shutdowns and everything. And Tenet, which is the new Christopher Nolan movie, which I'm really excited to see. I have been excited to see this ever since I seen it get announced. Starring John David Washington, is a movie that Nolan himself has been pushing to have in theaters because he wants people to actually have the theater experience. But my question is, will it be ready by the time that he's saying that he wants the movie to be ready? Like, even if theaters open up, is everything going to be ready? That's the big thing. Like, theaters may be open. Is this movie going to be ready? And it's just another part that brings up the question that I had about the demand. Like, everyone's going to want to see this movie. How are they going to handle it? Are they going to have this movie in for a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks? How is this going to be handled? So people see this movie and the big heads make their money. Like, how is this going to work? And I did see that it's going to open international first, and then in the U.S., only select cities are going to see it. So I'm wondering if this is going to be another Mulan situation where select theaters are going to see it here, but you pay $20, $30, $40, $50, $60 to see it at home on a streaming service that you already have. I don't know. I guess we'll just find out in the future. It's a scary thing to think about, so I'm really hoping for the best because I don't want to get duped And I don't want to see bad things happen to the film industry because I like movies. I've always loved movies. I love movies more now than ever. And yeah, so I just want to see everything do great. I want to see everybody do great. I want to see everybody be safe. Um, so yeah, that's my thoughts on the whole thing. I know I might have just went on a little tangent about that, but I had to get some of that off my chest. So yeah, thank you for tuning in to the Dom Trap. This has been Dominique, once again, your host, your editor, your all the above, your everything, your first, your last, your everything, as far as this podcast goes. But like I said previously, there's not much going on in the film industry and the TV world. So next episode, I may talk about an older movie that I've seen, or I may talk about video games because there is a lot going on in the gaming industry. So maybe doing that. I may or should be having some guests in the next few episodes. So be looking out for those special guests. So yeah, just do what you can as far as living day to day. I know it can be hard. A lot of you are discouraged. A lot of jobs are at stake, and a lot of safety issues at the same time. But do always pray and keep your head up. I'll be praying and wishing the best for you. Don't have much disdain in your heart for anybody. It's not the best way to go about life at this time. So do have a great time, a great week, a great month, great days. Whenever I hear from you next, or you'll hear from me next, do enjoy whatever life you have that's given to you. Shout out to all of my listeners. Shout out to everybody that's listening. I checked my analytics and seen I had some listeners in Canada, which is really cool to see. So yeah, this is episode 7 of the Dom Trap. Just don't get too comfortable, really. And I will be speaking to you guys soon. I'm taking off. Goodbye.